Hey there, I'm Thanos. EMBOAR is intended for listeners that have finished reading Worm and are passively familiar with Worm's many fanworks. Fanworks talked about during the show may be spoiled during discussion, and if you're going to listen anyway, ignoring this warning, you will be balanced. You've been warned.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Etch and Misha's Bad Reviews and Opinions, also known as EMBOAR, your premier Worm fan fiction podcast on the internet and probably across every single reality. I'm Misha.
I'm Etch.
And today we are joined by the illustrious StabbyUnicorn. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to our podcast, which is, for the record, named Etch and Misha's Bad Opinions and Reviews.
It's okay.
Because that's why we get the acronym EMBOAR. What's Pokemon? We've never heard of it.
Pokemon?
They're the worst fire starter in the entire series.
I think I have some cards here.
Yes. On you?
Actually, yes. Well, I'm holding them now.
Oh my god.
I have a Camerupt, Masquerain, an Ivysaur. I like Ivysaur. A Venusaur. Oh. Yeah. And Raticate.
Masquerain's nice. I like Masquerain.
I know like 4 of them because I'm a fake fan.
I had never heard of most of these. I knew Ivysaur and Venusaur and Raticate.
Damn, you guys have You guys haven't kept up like at all.
I played the Omega Ruby, and I played Fire Red, and I played Sun and Moon, and that's about it in terms of like my experience with the Pokémon franchise.
Damn.
And I also played Smash Bros.
I played Red, the original Red.
I'm so sorry.
And I used to collect cards when I was little, and I watched the first 52 episodes of the show.
I own at least 1 copy of every single release of the game.
Yeah.
I have
like every release, like including like
I have
both
a blue
versions?
cartridge. Not some generations have both versions, but I have a blue cartridge. I have a crystal cartridge. I might have lost my emerald cartridge. And
You're
then
just flexing on us here.
Look, I
the only real fan here.
I have a kid, okay?
Legally obtained ROMs of each game in the series, so there's that.
I think I did play Yellow back in the day.
Yellow was the best because Pikachu followed you around.
Exactly. Pikachu's the best.
They brought that back in Soul Silver and Heart Gold. The first
Pokemon
and then
in your party
they
removed it again.
They removed it, and then they brought it back in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Oh, that is the one Pokemon game that I haven't bought, and that's the Let's Go games on the Switch.
Well, it's not a real one.
According to my friends, it is, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, welcome to EMBOAR. We sometimes talk about Worm fan fiction.
But it turns out we're a Pokemon podcast now. It was in the name. It was fated from day one.
So what is this Worm?
What is Worm? Worm is a...
Take that, you worm.
Take that, you wormfic. Worm is an obscure Canadian web novel written by a pig named Wildebeest, or Warner Brothers.
Wait, it's Canadian?
Yeah,
Wildbow's Canadian.
Wildbow lives in like the middle of nowhere, Canada, from what I gathered.
That's why EarthBet has dollar coins instead of dollar bills, because
Wildbow is no. America has dollar coins. Okay, I don't know why people are up in a tizzy over this, but we have dollar coins. They exist.
I actually, we're never gonna talk about Wormfic at this rate. But I actually watched this whole episode about they tried to get dollar coins, and you could buy them for $1 on this website using credit cards, but then it turns out people were just using it to like get credit card reward point money, and ended up like stealing thousands of dollars from the U.S. government basically in credit card rewards. So that was fun.
Say, can you see by the dots?
Speaking of worm fan fiction, what have you all been reading recently?
This week I have not been reading, but once again, I've only been mostly reading the Cauldron Cuff snips and whatever people throw my way.
Yeah,
for,
that's
like,
wrapping up,
editing.
right?
Yes, I think all 8 final matches are in. I think.
Shoutouts to that.
Shoutouts to that. I'm in that final 8. Gentle mild flex.
I have. Oh, Stabby.
Oh yeah, I have not been reading wormfic lately, unfortunately. I can't remember what the last wormfic I read was. Not been reading fic in general the last few weeks.
Damn.
No, the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
That's valid.
Why
You don't
is
need to-
Archive of Our Own not working right now? What's going on?
I don't know. Maybe some maintenance thing. I feel so selfish by saying this. I've been reading the comments on my own posts, and that's been the extent of my. Oh no! I've read it in Golden Armour.
Comments?
I've read it in Golden Armour. By particularly large bell, aka L. I
Particularly large bear, also known as L.
I fucking love In Golden Armour. It's this tattletale shitfic where she like meets someone who is just so wholesome and pure that there's nothing for her power to dig up, and so they can be in a relationship.
It is very WAF. I do enjoy it a lot.
It's just so nice. WAF stands for warm and fuzzy feelings. I didn't know that for months. Thank you, Dave.
Neither did I when I first started reading it. I just kept asking people, "Hey, I want to read fics that are happy." And they go, "Do you mean WAF?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want a waffle. I want something to read." And they go, "No, you don't understand. It's warm and fuzzy feelings." I'm like, "Yes, I do like those. Those are very nice."
Well,
I've
a waffle
also-
would go very well with the story I want to write next.
Oh.
I want to write something inspired by Stranger Things.
I
But
have not watched that
Oh.
show. I have not watched that show.
I have also not watched that show, but I'm still interested. Keep
But
talking.
egos are involved. Not in my story. My story won't actually. It's not gonna. It wouldn't be a crossover.
It'd be an inspired by kind of deal.
Right. Mostly the formula. So the formula of Stranger Things, at least in the first and third season. I can't remember the second if it did this, but in the first and third season, you have pretty much 3 main protagonist groups and 2 antagonists. One of the antagonists is kind of responsible for the other one. So one's the real big bad, and the other's kind of the
underling
thing that
big
keeps.
bad.
Well, it's the thing that keeps messing you up as you try to figure out what's up with the big bad. So, like, think of it like Cauldron and Scion. You know?
Yeah, I was actually going to
Yeah.
mention Contessa. It felt like.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Well,
go with
that's the other
Cauldron
problem
Portal.
is I have to get rid of Contessa because, like, she's too powerful.
just
So
say
that's
one
like the
word.
first thing I do.
One word, Mantellum.
No. Just say that she's taking a vacation to some like Scottish castle in the countryside. You know.
Oh, that's a reference to Felix Fortuna. I love that thing.
No, I'm just thinking about there's just going to be portals involved. And, maybe she gets stuck on the wrong side of one.
Oh, I thought you meant like the Valve video game portals.
Well, I mean, kind of, but no.
Damn, shot down.
But yeah, I have not figured it all out yet, but it's going to have like elements of mystery and
I love your mystery work, so it's really exciting for me.
Speaking of Stabby's mystery work.
That's a
and
cool transition.
The other thing that's really important is basically Taylor is going to team up with Pico and who's in charge of the school. The principal.
Blackwell.
Yeah,
Okay.
Blackwell. She's going to team up with those two.
Oh my god.
That's
that's Woo!
That's new.
Breaking new ground.
Yeah, that's why I thought of it. So yeah, she's going to be doing
That's so
that.
cool. That's
And
actually
then,
really cool.
And then there's going to be some other group as well. Well, two other groups, because there have to be the 3 protagonist groups total.
That's great. That's very exciting.
That's super
Yeah.
cool,
Yeah.
man. I love that.
And knowing you, Stabby, that means like you're probably gonna plan this thing probably from like beginning to end before you even start to write it, because I think
Yes.
that's something you've brought up a bunch. I think on Cauldron
Yeah.
is that you
And
don't write before planning everything.
No, I plan it out, but usually after a few chapters, I have to replan because something didn't go according to plan.
Mm-hmm. But
like
you
the
have
overall thing stays. Yeah.
You have the overarching one, and that's very important. I feel like for this fandom, because you know we don't get a lot of finished works. People don't think about finishing the work, so I think it's very cool that you actually go through the process of planning it all out, making sure all your plot beats and all your elements are all working together. It's very nice.
Thank you.
It's definitely a strength of yours in comparison to certain other writers, which is basically everyone else. That's a call-out post to @everyone. Who just got pinged.
Oh.
I mean, another good thing is that from what I've seen of most of all the works I can find on Worm Story Search of yours, is that you don't do big projects. I think your longest fic is Reparo, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That's sitting at like what 56,000 or 59,000 words.
Something like that, around 60K.
And that's actually very short for this fandom, and I think that's a very big strength of your works.
Well, I can't seem to write longer because even though I don't think necessarily that the sentences I craft are spectacular, I spend a lot of time on them.
And
so like I'm not saying they're spectacular like, oh, I spend hours on every sentence and therefore it is fantastic. No, I mean, I
Painstakingly
spend hours on
every
every
word.
sentence and it comes out like some are okay, some are good, some are not. But like the time is spent. And so because of that level of obsessing, I just don't. Writing something big seems way too intimidating.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's obsessive. I think it's more that I think it's a passion that you put behind your words, and I think that's very important when doing anything.
It definitely reflects in the quality of the final product. I think the character work is so excellent. One of your biggest strengths, Stabby, is whenever you like take a character that is like seen often in ficdom. What you like to do is like put a really good twist on him, like Miss Militia in Case of the Disappeared Villain. Spoilers for Case of the Disappeared Villain, which is a very excellent mystery fic. If you are listening to this and you haven't read it, I recommend you pause it right now
To go read.
To go read. This is it's a rare time where we will do that because it is a mystery and it works so much better when you don't have all of the pieces. But essentially, Taylor is put in a group project with Sophia and I think it was Madison.
Yes.
Madison.
Maddie.
And they are assigned to research Lustrum, and they accidentally uncover this huge conspiracy spanning like all these different people with all these different ideologies, and it's so fascinating how it all comes together. And
That one was really hard to plan out.
You said spoiler alert, and then you spoiled nothing.
and then no. I'm saying it's incoming. It's incoming.
Okay, it's still coming. It's still coming.
And
Spoiler
then
alert's
it
still
comes to show Miss Militia, who is known in ficdom for being a pretty good person, like like Captain America, like boy hero. I am doing my part. She's horrible. She is so awful. She is the real bad guy in Case of the Disappeared Villain, and that is so fascinating to me that you chose her. And characters like Sophia and Madison, while they feel like authentic to themselves, they still are like heroes in this, as opposed to their more negative portrayal. And I really love how you twisted that.
Well, I that's kind of like the thing I enjoy is characters are complicated, so there can be many sides to a character. So in case of the disappeared villain, Miss Militia in a different circumstance might seem perfectly nice. The representation of her that we may see in other fic.
The quintessential hero, essentially.
Yeah, and also the always reasonable, the equivalent of in all the Harry Potter fanfic, Madame Bones, which probably explains why.
That's the nurse, right?
No.
That's Madame Pomfrey.
Amelia Bones, Susan Bones' mom. She runs the
Aunt,
DM.
Susan.
Aunt.
Yeah.
This is why we're not a Harry Potter podcast.
Well, anyway, all the fic always shows her as being the reasonable one who listens, like the one good person in the Ministry of Magic. And it's a lot of worm fic shows Miss Militia as like, the most good person.
The new mom. That's what I see Miss Militia mostly as. The new mom.
Exactly.
There's
that
literally
kind of
like
thing,
multiple
but
fics where she is the Taylor's new mom.
No, that's the joke. There's
okay. Well,
somebody.
I would actually read that. I need to find some of those.
Shout out to Nike by Hopeful Penguin.
It's pronounced Nike.
What?
I think. I
Okay. Let me do this. Nike is the brand of their shoe. Nike. They took their name from the Roman goddess of victory, whose name is Nike.
Okay, I'm stupid.
I'm gonna.
I did not know this.
Let's move on.
No, it's here's
It's
your
Nike
mythology 101 lesson for y'all.
Well, there you go. You learned something new today.
I think Nike was one of the early ones that did it. More Than Meets the Eye does it. There's a couple. I hate to bring this up. I think Queen of the Cards does this trope. I hate saying that fic's name, but that fic does bring up this trope. In fact, I've seen it so much that I decided to write a fic where that didn't happen explicitly.
Yeah, so that's basically that kind of thing is what made me want to write something different. Basically, I needed someone who we know to be the villain of the story, the antagonist. Because she's not like technically a worm villain, but she's a villain. But I needed it to be someone who you wouldn't expect. I needed to be able to misdirect and kind of hint that maybe it's Arms Master, who I always want to just call Arm Master.
Not until after Leviathan.
Oh.
Even then he didn't lose an arm.
And then, so I needed all these things together. And then I'm like, well, everyone loves Miss Militia. No one will see this coming.
Yeah, and from what I heard, because I haven't read through the entirety of Case of Disappeared Villain, it was very well received. I think it is your most popular fic.
It is, in fact. And, I'm very... I think maybe I have peaked. We'll see.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Don't say that. That's
If you believe you've peaked, then you have. But if you believe you've got room to grow, then fella, you're gonna go far.
if you have
I mean-
no self-awareness, you will never peak. I can attest to this.
No, I mean in popularity, I think I may have peaked. I think I can
perhaps.
grow in the storytelling space and so on, but
But in terms of
Like-
just with the general community, the general fandom.
yeah, because I typically like writing weird stories, so they won't appeal to everyone.
I mean, that's definitely reflected with some of your more recent works, like Please Like and Subscribe and I Want to Be.
Okay, let's talk about Please Like and Subscribe real quick.
Sure.
Please Like and Subscribe was one of the driving things to influence this podcast's creation.
Wow.
Because it showed me that there was space in the worm fandom for audio content. Please Like and Subscribe and Vermont Stretch Radio, and those were the two big ones.
Mm-hmm.
They paved the way. They really were like, yeah, you can do this. People will
It
tune in.
was so hard.
I just want to do
All the
voice scripts.
editing.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that part of the podcast I don't do.
That's
Well,
me. I spent 5 hours rendering out episode 1.
I'm sorry,
It was
Etch.
fun.
But so when you but are you doing things like? I guess you are kind of cutting it up so that you can get everyone's own mic, right?
Well, I'm more in terms of what I actually do for the audio. I just mostly just assemble it and then just kind of leave it. The video is where it's fun.
Levels, video. You do the visualizer.
Oh my god.
That's most of the rendering, isn't it? It's
That's
visualizer.
the entirety of the rendering.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it would take like half an hour.
Yeah.
For me, the please like and subscribe, most of the audio in that involved several takes. And in a couple of the takes, like, it was, emotional scenes, and I get myself in character, and I actually cried in real life, just as Taylor was crying in the scene. And then I'm like doing that 4 times in a row.
It's dedication to the craft, if I've ever heard of it.
It was interesting. I don't regret doing it, but I don't know if I would be willing to do an audio story again. It was just so much work.
I mean, that's more dedication than me spending 2 hours recording proper in Worm read aloud.
Oh God! When do we have the full audiobook of that thing?
That
When is that
exists.
coming?
I mean, it exists, but I want to go back and redo it.
Oh no. Yeah, please like and subscribe, because people in the comment section of the first episode were like, "You should summarize what fic you're talking about." It was a Doctor Who crossover. She basically, what?
I'll describe it. I have the pitch.
Yes.
Elevator
Pitch it.
pitch is, it's a Taylor, Peggy Sue, Doctor Who crossover, alt power.
Those
where
are
she
words
is-
you like, space battles.
Exactly. You see, she's back in time in her younger body, and for whatever reason, she has decided to do this YouTube series talking about Doctor Who, because she's gotten into Doctor Who now that she's back in time in her younger body and doesn't seem to have a power, and the world's going to end in 3 years, and there's nothing she can do about it. So she might as well watch TV.
That's
then talk about it.
such a mood. Holy shit. That's the biggest mood.
So she watches TV and talks about it. But the way she talks about it is she tells Doctor Who stories in her podcast. Not podcast, sorry, it's more of a video, right?
Audio
But she
drama,
does it
I would-
hypnotically. So she says, she like gets you into this visualizing. She's like, close your eyes. And she talks really softly and tries to bring the listener into the story, and the main character of the story is you. She is talking to you. Anyway, yeah. That it is interesting story. It is the maybe second weirdest story I have ever written. Maybe third weirdest. I've written some weird original stories.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I was gonna ask. I was looking through
super-
the catalog. I was like, where is this?
No. I've written some weird original stories that I'm not going to talk about, because then it would like link back to my real ID.
Oh, okay, understandable.
Yeah. But I've written some weird things. I had a story that was told in first person as journal entries, but then in the last chapter, the narrator dies, and the story keeps going. And it makes complete sense in story once you know a bit, but like it's like, yeah.
Wow.
There's a line that's the knife, like the knife lashed out and slit my throat. I died. And then the story keeps going.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I have a StabbyUnicorn thing I want to talk about.
Oh,
Which one
Out
is
of
it?
all of your stories, I think my favorite is Hot Cocoa. So I want to
I
talk
liked
about
that one a lot.
I want to talk about Hot Cocoa. It's 4,000 words. It's basically a what if look at Worm. So basically, the premise is that Worm, the entirety of it, is a D&D campaign or a Weaver Dice campaign that Taylor is playing with her friends to kind of cope with her life, essentially. And I want to talk about this fic because as a person who very much enjoys character work, as someone who very much enjoys quieter kind of fics, like, not dealing with the action of capes, but more trying to deal with the humaner side of characters and the humaner side of storytelling, and more importantly, the family side of storytelling. I would like to ask you, like, what was the inspiration behind Hot Cocoa? What was, like, the driving forces behind it? How did the idea come to be? How did the writing process, just the whole shebang? Because I love Hot Cocoa.
let's see if I can remember. So the first thing that it was going to be a Christmas story.
Yes, I remember. You dropped this around Christmas.
Yeah,
And
a few days
I
after.
wanted to write a Christmas story, but I was also finishing Case of the Disappeared Villain. And I was just like going through a bunch of ideas, and I wanted something that felt like Christmas or like holidays. And I'm like, holidays for me is time with family, but also now that I've gotten older, is about like, relationship with my parents and how that has changed over the years. And the story didn't start about relationship with parents. The story just started with the idea of, oh, it's a D&D style campaign, which I've never played D&D. But it just started as that.
D&D is mostly just people making shit up in the basement. I'm just gonna put that out there real quick.
That's where all the best things are. That's where all the best things start.
I did once read like most of a webcomic that was like the concept was Star Wars is
Stars
a
and
D&D
Droids!
game.
Yeah,
I love that
Stars
one.
and
Yeah,
Droids. That's where
Stars
Someone's
and
Bigger
Droids.
Fish comes from. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I read most of that, and but that was like a couple years ago. But reading that, I don't know if that's what like gave me the idea of what if it's a campaign or not. But anyway, that's where it started, was just what if it's a campaign. But then I started noticing there were relationships going on. I was like, how can I turn this into a story? And then I was thinking, well, how does Worm progress? What would lead someone to act that out, to make that happen in their story? What would lead someone to tell that story? Which actually is something I think about a lot. Like what is behind a story, I mean, is something I think about a lot. I started writing an essay recently, actually, about Worm and how you could view it as actually being a story about someone who wrote Worm.
Trying to reflect the artist behind the art.
Yeah, but because I don't want to actually read into Wildbow and what he was thinking, I was like, it's a story about a fictional author named Lauren. And you see, it starts with just a simple concept of an idea, and it's pure escapism, but then it takes on something more as this author gets fans and doesn't want to disappoint them and thinks the story will be torn apart. The universe of the story will be torn apart. The author, she is Scion, and she is like all the characters are reflections of her in this way of viewing the story.
I mean, I feel like that's just true in writing in general, in storytelling, is that I feel like every character is in some way a reflection of your experiences and your knowledge and just you, not you as a person, but just, you know, the summation of what you are is, I feel like, mostly what you put into storytelling. So that,
Yeah. And I found that, like, I would go back and read my stories, like, a few years later, and I will find things that I did not remember thinking, but I'm like, yeah, that's how I was feeling back then.
I go back to things I write last year, and I go, wow, you could have done this better, you, you piece of shit.
Well,
Lucy.
that too.
Writing can be like a time capsule for, like, who you were at a certain point in your life.
I have writing saved from when I was in 9th grade of high school. It is
Oh,
on my
shit.
Google
No,
Drive.
no.
I have that, but for
I am
6th
so
grade.
glad I don't have that.
I refuse to
because-
delete it. I feel like if I delete it, I'm like, I feel like I lose a lot. if I
Technically
delete it.
speaking, the first version of I Prefer Chocolate, which is my Worm Minecraft self-insert, was written before Worm. When I was in 6th grade.
Jesus.
It's so bad. Oh my god, it's so bad.
Wow.
Actually, I have a
first-
question about hot cocoa. Have you ever read the fic Worm D20? Stabby? Oh, that's actually a funny coincidence.
Yeah,
It's,
That
Yeah,
is
each-
basically the same. That is basically your same idea essentially, but instead of Taylor, Emma, and Sophia playing the game, it's the Undersiders with Colin as their game master.
yeah, and it's a lot less like focused on the relationships of the characters, and like it's more about
more humor.
funny moment.
more
Dark
humor.
moment in story is funny moment in real life. It's
Yeah.
not. It's a lot lighter. And it's like one arc per chapter.
I mean,
kind of
I
rough
won't
deal.
say like Hot Cocoa is like. I don't feel like it really particularly deals with very heavy themes. I feel like that's more Reparo in terms of your work.
Yeah.
I feel like it's much more. It's much
no,
lighter.
it's not heavy.
No.
But in comparison to something that's borderline
sure.
crack like Worm D20. you
Sure. I mean, I to just close on Hot Cocoa, I just want to say that I feel like this is the kind of stuff that really helps, you know, it helps elevate the fandom in a sense, because we go beyond, we go, this is going to sound really whiny, I guess. We go beyond just the superheroism of everything. And I understand if that's, like personally, I love superheroes, and that's why I'm in this fandom. That's why I got into the story. But I also feel like there are more stories that can be told that is beyond the powers and beyond the fights and beyond heroes versus villains. I feel like, and I feel like a story like Hot Cocoa is a great way to explore those angles and explore characterization and moments behind the story.
Absolutely. Wildbow's always stated that powers are just a storytelling element, and I think Hot Cocoa is a very good proof of that. Fics like Hot Cocoa and other no power fics like Life Bends Down, which I still haven't read, are very. I'll never read it. I'm so sorry. It's never gonna. Oh no, I should read it.
I mean, I can say this about Life Bends Down is I have read a couple chapters. Perry's writing is very good in terms of just having the words like the words she writes is very pleasant to read. I couldn't get invested into the characters of LBD, and that's part of the reason why I couldn't continue reading it.
But Hot Cocoa is proof that you don't need powers to tell a worm story, because
or rather
they're
you
all
don't need powers to tell a story in general, and I think that's just something that's
powers
to keep in mind.
Are like a fun thing for me. Like, I think this is where I kind of go wrong in terms of my stories don't typically do with powers what one might expect. Like, I basically use powers to make things worse.
Could you elaborate on that actually?
Yeah, so Reparo, she's using her powers to imagine that she is a witch. In I Want to Be, Amy's power is
It's the same as canon, but well,
yes, but it's like it's guilt over how she used it is tearing her up, and that's what it's about. It's about her emotional journey. The powers and that she's making Pokemon are secondary, and in Reparo, it's the same kind of thing where it's really all about what's going on internally. I think if I remember correctly, I actually plotted Reparo out in terms of how she's feeling at different times, and then came up with plot for it.
So I'm just gonna say this right now. I always thought that spell was pronounced Reparo.
It probably is.
Oh, okay.
I pronounce it Reparo, but I think because in the Chamber of Secrets movie, I think Hermione says Oculus Reparo, but maybe she says Reparo. I don't know.
I've just always assumed it was Reparo. I wouldn't know. I mean,
One
I'm
of
not.
the great mysteries.
I'm not. I'm not
Reparo.
deep. I'm not deep into the Potter fandom.
It's
Well, I think
Leviosa, not Leviosa.
It's
Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa. Yeah, so Reparo is my darkest, but like I Want to Be is basically Reparo 2.0. It's Reparo, but different. I mean, it deals with anxiety and depression, but hopefully with a bit more subtlety. Whereas Reparo was
Maybe too much subtlety for space battles. But
maybe.
Damn, Etch really out here just roasting most of our readership, most of our listenership like this.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Reparo is like one is first person, one is third person, and so Reparo is what does it feel like? What are the thought processes? Every word in it should be something that she is basically thinking in her monologue. Whereas I Want to Be, like, yes, the narrator is effectively Amy talking about herself in third person, like it's not an omniscient narrator, but it gives a bit of distance. So, but it's still dealing with the themes of anxiety and depression, but where Reparo was really just about that, I Want to Be is also kind of about family and, like learning to accept oneself.
I think
So
those are
they're a
little
little different.
good themes.
If you can you give like a little elevator pitch for both of those fics, just for the readers who have no idea what the hell we're talking about?
Listeners and readers.
So,
Yeah, why did I say readers? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm dying.
are you going to have a transcript?
No.
No,
God, no.
never.
So, Reparo is about Taylor, it's told first person, and in it, she starts thinking of her power as, well, she's obsessed with Harry Potter, and she pretends her power makes her a witch, and she's depressed enough that she doesn't really care about much, and because that is, for me, often how depression has worked. I kind of lose my ability to care, and as a result, she just goes with thinking she's a witch. But then weird things start to happen that shouldn't be possible with just the ability to control insects.
Reparo is one of my favorite fics in the fandom. Just, it's so excellent.
Meanwhile, I Want to Be is, in short, what if Amy made Pokemon, but also hates herself for doing it? And,
Yeah, there have been other like Amy making Pokemon fics.
there have?
Well, no, there was this one. Taylor was a tinker and she made Pokemon, and Amy learned how to do it from her.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember
There's
that.
also menstrual sore, but I don't want to talk about menstrual
No,
sore.
no.
We don't talk about menstrual
That's
sore.
awesome.
God, I can't believe there's multiple pieces of fan art for menstrual sore.
I blame Perry.
It's
I
great.
can blame it solely on Perry, and I'm okay with that. Okay. Oh,
It's wonderful.
Oh, something to bring up from the beginning before we end. This is one question I did want to ask you, Stabby. how did you get into Worm? How did you get into the fandom, the story, all
yeah.
of it? Yeah.
Well, I was on the Cal train, which is a train. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it's a train that kind of goes from San Jose-ish up to San Francisco. And I was on that train, and there was a girl on the train, and the girl started telling me about Worm. And I don't know how old she was. I think she was pretty young. Like, she couldn't have been older than, like, maybe she was, like, in her early 20s, but at oldest. Anyway, she was just, like, going on about it and, like, oh, you have to read it. You have to read it. And I'm like, well, I don't really read much original stuff anymore. I just read Harry Potter fanfic.
Damn, I wish
If
I
even
had
that.
the balls to like go up to random people on public transportation to be like, "Yo, read Worm." Like,
Read Worm.
shove my phone in their face. Read Worm, and damn you, read it.
Somehow we got to talking first, but then that came out. And, you know, I wrote it down in my notes. And then, like, a month later, I ran across it in my notes. And I'm like, hey, you know, why not give it a try?
I got some spare.
I've
time.
not
I got
read
some free
anything
time.
new in like years. New original fiction specifically. So why not? And then I did. And then I read half of it.
I mean, you and a lot of people in this fandom, so don't worry about that one.
I mean, to be fair, I have like read a smattering of the other chapters, and including like basically I read up until they got away from Dragon.
Oh, the dragon suits. Okay.
Yeah,
That's-
they got away from the dragon suits. I read up until there.
That's arc 16,
And-
I want to say. Yeah, I think that's arc 16.
And then I read from the time Taylor was being interrogated by Alexandria to half of the Behemoth battle.
That's a good chunk. I love rereading arcs 20 to 25 on a
Yeah,
very
honestly,
regular
I think
basis.
it's more consistent than Gaia.
And then I
true.
read like a fraction, like a few chapters from like near the end. And like the end.
And Spec,
As
yeah.
well.
Ah,
Yeah,
Spec,
so,
Spec is so good.
I don't know if I read like
So good.
the actual like battle, but I read like pieces. And I read the like epilogue, a couple pieces of the epilogue part.
Glowworm was painful for me. I read it through once. I've never read it again on my read through on my like other read throughs.
I didn't read Glowworm.
Oh, not Glowworm.
The epilogue part.
Oh,
I mean, is like
Tenorol. That's yeah.
Yeah.
the part where she's in the where she meets.
She's on Aleph.
her-
She meets her Aleph.
Yeah. Yeah, that. Yeah.
Is it Aleph for sure? We don't know. Could be Coma Dream.
Shut the fuck up, Wild Bow. I swear to God. She's alive, damn you. She's alive. I can invoke death
It
of
could
the
be a
author.
coma
here.
dream.
I can invoke
It,
death
it
of the
could.
author.
Hey, it could be an afterlife. I mean, in a way, it is.
No.
You know what?
She's
The
alive.
whole story. Do we have a story yet where it hints or maybe it just outright says that the whole thing is actually just in Taylor's mind and she's actually like
Still in the locker? That's a Wild Bow Reddit post.
Yes. No, there's one. I see.
There's a
Okay,
that's
no,
a
no,
Wild
hold
Bow
on.
Reddit post.
I mean,
Not that
I
one,
was
not that
thinking,
one.
You know, it's just
There's
it's
a
the
fic.
Buffy.
Is it the-
It's the Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode where, yeah.
Wait,
There's a
is
fic.
that the crack one where like she dies and wakes up and like
No.
everyone's still alive?
This is Minecraft. This is Minecraft
What is
by.
Minecraft?
It's the fucking Minecraft crossover that inspired me to write I Prefer Chocolate because I really,
Are we-
really didn't like how it ended.
Are we gonna have to cut
so
this?
much?
I'm gonna cut this.
Ugh,
bit.
no. No, we're not, because I'm not going to tell you people that I hated the whole thing, because that's a lie. I really liked a lot of it, but it's the ending. She wakes up in the hospital. Turns out the whole thing was a power dream, and she just finished triggering as she wakes up, and she was in the coma the whole time.
That's
A power dream.
Power dream of her power calibrating itself by simulating the entire universe.
Entire universe.
The entire universe.
Not even
You
Coil
know-
Shard goes through those fucking legs to
Sure.
simulate that much shit for him.
Sure, fine, whatever.
Damn.
All right, Let's wrap this episode up by talking about recommendations. Anything you want the people to read. I really like It Starts With One. It just updated. We talked about it last in episode 1, but it's still really good.
I think we're gonna have to recommend. Well, obviously since Stabby's here, I have to recommend Hot Cocoa. I have to recommend a lot of stuff. I recommend Hot Cocoa.
Yeah, Recluse is great. We didn't even talk about that one at all.
We didn't talk about Recluse,
Oh,
but
Recluse.
Recluse. I read. Funny story about this. I read Recluse, and after I finished it, that was during the Cauldron Secret Santa, and I was like, this other thing I'm trying with my prompt isn't working. What if I just do something in second person? And then I just banged that out in like 45 minutes. It was like 2,000 words. And I was like, I'm okay with posting this onto the internet. So
You know what? You want to know a secret?
what's the secret?
Let us know.
Second person is best person.
Ooh, those are fighting words for a lot of people. Those fighting words for many, many people right there.
I mean, it has to be done right, but like it's great.
It's very good. It's very good for a certain mindset and a certain
Yeah.
story to tell. I can agree with that.
It's also really good if you want to have a certain sort of cynicism in the voice, because it doesn't usually come out right in third person, although it can, and it can be like kind of quirky. But in first person, it just sounds obnoxious and pretentious. But in second person, it feels. Second person is like a screenplay. It feels immediate. Second person present tense especially. It feels immediate. This is what's happening right now. Like it just feels a lot more direct. If there's a distance from the character, second person has the least.
I mean,
Even though first
Yeah.
person seems like it should be closer, it's not.
First person
because-
isn't closer because you are in the head of someone else. And also to add to the second
Right.
person thing is like I think second person is great for mystery, personally.
Yeah.
I think it's like the whole concept of you see this, you do that, and it's like things are being
Yeah.
slowly revealed to you because as a
Yeah.
person you're not used to being kept in the dark like this, and then just telling a story
Yeah.
like that works very well for mystery.
And
Second
for-
person is a lot of fun, and it's my favorite to write in, but it needs like the right kind of voice, and too often lately the stories I've been writing just don't have that kind of voice. Like I can't just switch like each story I write has like a specific feel to it that is like the feel that goes with the story. So that means that it will have a certain person, a certain tense, and so on. Because not because I'm like thinking, oh, well, third person suit more, just because it feels right.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much
More-
for being on this
more
podcast
Thank you.
with us, Stabby Unicorn. Stabby Unicorn is the author of many, many, many fics on SB and AO3 in both the Worm and Harry Potter fandoms. Check out everything she's written. She's
Oh,
excellent writer. Strive to be more like her. Vote for her in your local election.
Damn, Etch is running campaigns now. Wow, dude.
get the Stabby Unicorn milkshake at the coffee shop in SF.
And
Is that an actual thing?
That's a
That
real
is an
thing.
actual thing.
Damn, I was in
It's a
SF just a couple
it's a-
months ago. I should have.
It's-
I wish I knew.
it's a kinky coffee shop, and they have a milkshake.
Kinky as in like sex related, or kinky as in like kinky vodka.
The first.
Damn.
Yeah,
A little
no
more second.
alcohol there. But they have a milkshake named after me. I named it.
Did
The
you
Stabby
named it a
Unicorn.
Stabby Unicorn?
Yeah.
You are one
that's
of
awesome.
the first writers in the fandom to have merch. That counts.
Stabby
Exactly.
genuinely has merch. You can, if you're in the San Fran area, you can just buy a milkshake, a
A
coffee,
Stabby Unicorn.
a Stabby Unicorn.
We don't call it San Fran. We call it San Francisco or the city. Or SF.
Well, I'm
SF is
from
okay.
the East Coast, so it doesn't matter to me.
The city is New York City. How dare you?
The city is Boston. Thank you very much.
One of my favorite bands is The Sounds, and they've performed in SF. And I've seen them twice in SF, and both times they said like San Fran, I think it was, and
got
I'm just
booed
like,
off
oh
stage.
no, no.
You're never coming back here again.
Well, they did.
All right. Thank you
All
all
right.
for listening
Thank
to this
you.
episode of EMBOAR. Please like and subscribe. That's the name of the fic. That's not me shilling. And we'll see you all next time. Or, yeah, thank you all.